What's happening? What's up? What's Gucci, my lovely people? And it's the Sprax witching out. I don't know. I've been thinking of little titles and things. I'm not sure if I should start another channel and turn it into a podcast, or if I should just rename this one Radio Sprax. Who knows? But I digress. We're just going to get right into the topic at hand, and that is the presidential debate. The presidential debate was an absolute shit show. I mean, it's something that you want to see happen to another country, but not on your own. And what I mean is the entertainment value of it. If it's not your country, it's hilarious. If it is your country, it's abysmal. This is the highest office for this country. It's supposed to be the most prestigious role, and I'll say supposed to be because there's a lot of controversy and scandals that go along with the presidency. But just speaking in practice and principle, like how it's supposed to be on paper, this is the highest office in the country, the most prestigious role that they're supposed to be, the richest nation in the world. And what we showed on the national and international scale is that this country is pretty much an idiocracy. I want to put it this way. If those were your parents on stage arguing with each other, you would be embarrassed. So since this is on paper, the representation of us, those that live in this country, it should be an embarrassment. Now, Trump is worse than Biden. Okay, that's just a fact. If you don't like it, it is what it is. And I could really get into the nuances of why Trump is worse than Biden. I mean, I never really liked the guy to begin with because I live in New Jersey. I was, for the most part, raised in Jersey. So I saw all the local television pieces of him scamming people out on properties and whatnot. I wish I TiVo'd them then, but I haven't liked Trump ever. So Trump, he looked terrible. He looked like a guy who wants to be a bully, but isn't actually a bully. And what I mean by that is you have people who are front runners, who try to puff their chests out as a sense of intimidation. As the saying goes, people who bark loudest, bite the least or something like that. And in his case, that was him. Once his attacks on Biden stopped working and Biden started to gain momentum, he had nothing else. It was just basically a person that was throwing haymakers blindly and punching himself tired. But on the other side, Biden is he's just status quo. And in the contract that is society that, a lot of us didn't agree to, but it's a contract regardless, he represents the people that don't represent society. Only the rich. He said a lot of nice things in this debate in regards to race and politics, in regards to Trump. But it's like, I don't believe you. You get power, if you become president, you're just going to represent the rich. Not that Trump doesn't, he represents the rich as well. Well, not so much he represents them as much as they pretty much pull all the strings. Mitch McConnell's running the country, not Donald Trump. But going back to the debate, the amount of just interrupting each other and pretty much talking about a whole bunch of nonsense that happened, it was pathetic. It was absolutely pathetic. Towards the latter half, Biden started to become more coherent. He started to stick more towards policies while Trump was just yammering on and whatnot. But even on some of the topics that we're talking about, like law and order, what the fuck is law and order? And you're probably thinking well, what do you mean by that? Think about it. What is law and order? I want you to really, really, really ask yourself that. What is it? What does it mean? What does it pertain to? You can't just throw out a term, law and order. I'm for law and order. I support law and order, without really breaking down to how that law and order affects society. Because as we know in America, law and order doesn't really mean much. There's a different set of laws for the rich than there is for the average person like myself or anybody who's listening to this. Majority of criminal cases don't even go to trial. They're plea deals. Everybody knows that overcharging is a thing, so prosecutors can still get a win by just having somebody plea out. So how was that law and order? It's one of the amendments. I don't remember which one, but the whole, right to a fair and speedy trial, that doesn't exist. You could sit on Rikers Island for 2-3 years without actually getting any charges. So you're just wasting away. I mean, I could continue on this topic. In fact, everybody saw the Daniel Shaver video. Where was his Law and Order at? All he got was a fucking execution from Simon Says. Meanwhile, the cop who was in control of the situation fled to Thailand, while the one with the tattoos that had the "You're fucked" Daniel Philip or Philip Daniel, I don't care what his bitch ass name is, but the one that people laser focused in on, he wasn't even charged with anything. You know, he became the scapegoat, one that they knew they weren't going to charge, while the person who was really doing all this shit, he left. He fled the country. He retired and he left. I don't remember his name. I should have Googled him, but I'm not going to right now, just because that thing upsets me. I mean, you have so many cases. In fact, I just saw a video of a guy who in New Mexico. He's on the ground. Cops tell him to stand up. You know, he's completely complying, like 100% complying. This isn't hyperbole or anything at all. They tell him, you know, put his hands up first. He has his hands up. Then they tell him to stand up. He didn't hear it the first time because the sirens were on. So they tell him to stand up again. A half a second pass and they sick the dogs on him. Mind you, there was a delayed reaction. So in that half a second, he then started to stand up because it was just a slight delay. And then the dogs are sick on him, the K9. Where's his Law and Order? You know what I'm saying? So it was like, we don't really, as a country, want to address the topics that really exist. Like, they're better as cliff notes, but we don't really want to look at the nuance. I don't know if that's the correct word. Maybe substance. You know, the really fine details on our issues with law and order, or our issues with healthcare, or our issues with climate change. That debate was basically Love and Hip Hop, that Fat Girl TV show that I don't even remember the name. Something about honey something. Whoever hears it, y'all probably know what I'm talking about. That was a reality show as well. Teen Mom, The Real World. I could continue. That was MTV you saw. What we saw was basically the accumulation of every reality show since the 2000s in a debate format. And if I didn't live in the United States, I would be laughing at everybody that does. And that's all I have to say on this topic.